fear. I was like, please take me to a doctor. Please, somebody help me. I don't know how to help myself. I've tried for 3.5 years. All I do is cry and cry and cry and get a headache. And
at a very young age, your parents got divorced. Then you said at 6 you were diagnosed with tuberculosis. And then you said at 14 you were sexually abused. But then you said something which kind of surprised me. You said you moved past these things. Ira, can you move past these?
my parents' divorce wasn't one day. It was something that then changed all our lives. My sexual abuse again was not a one-day thing. It's not like once it stops happening, it has no effect on me. I was afraid of being a burden because I always said that I wanted to sleep and not wake up. And I used to sleep for 10-12 hours every day because I didn't want to be alive. I'm scared of depression in anyone else also. I'm scared of depression as a thing.
Lifestyle, entertainment, and everything in between. This is the Pinkvilla podcast. Ira, welcome to Pinkvilla.
Thank you so much.
क्योंकि आपने आज मानसिक स्वास्थ्य के बारे में हमसे बात करने के लिए समय निकाला और हमको ये मौका दिया. थैंक यू सो मच फॉर डूइंग दिस.
Thank you.
जब हम पहली बार मानसिक स्वास्थ्य की बात करते हैं या पहली बार कोई आके बाहर अपने संघर्ष की बात करता है आयरा, तब जो पहला इंस्टेंस है या पहला, और मैं अपने खुद की एक्सपीरियंस से भी कह सकता हूँ आपको कि पहला जो हमारा रिएक्शन होता है वो आउट ऑफ फियर होता है कि लोग क्या कहेंगे. दो चीज़ का मिक्सचर होता है. एक तो होता है कि लोग क्या कहेंगे, दूसरा आप खुद को जज करना शुरू कर देते हो. तो एक पर्सनल स्ट्रगल है, एक सोसाइटल स्ट्रगल है. जब आपने पहली बार ये रियलाइज़ किया कि आपको एक मानसिक संघर्ष है, यू आर स्ट्रगलिंग विथ मेंटल हेल्थ, पहला रिएक्शन क्या था?
पहले 2 साल तो I mean, I knew I was not okay, but I wasn't, it wasn't like a moment. And I wasn't afraid of being judged by my parents or anybody. I was afraid of being a burden. Once I admitted that, okay, I'm not being able to help myself, telling them wasn't hard. And I think most of it was me judging myself, which went on for very long. And so it was never a one moment thing. So you talked about what will people say? Log kya kahenge? Then you judging yourself. I think there's a third fear of just, I don't know what's happening. And if I don't know what's happening, then I don't know how to make it better.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm a very smart person. I will figure this out. And I couldn't. And so I thought, if I can't figure it out and I've spent all this time trying to, then no one else is also going to be able to. And there's no winning. So then I might as well not tell anyone because it'll just stress them out. Then we'll all have to sit and be sad together. Then it got so bad that I didn't have a choice but to reach out and ask for help. So then I did. But the judgment of myself went on for years, even after I admitted it to other people.
2020 you admitted it, right?
Publicly. I mean on Instagram. But I got diagnosed in 2018. Yeah, in 2018 I got diagnosed. I spoke about it on social media in 2020.
Yeah. Why did you find it necessary to speak about it publicly?
So in 2019 I was doing a play and my producer was talking to me about how Ira Khan had come out and spoken about his anxiety and how it had helped a lot of people. And I was like, sure, if there's one thing I've done, it is spend lots of time trying to learn how to find the words to describe this and talk about it for myself and for the people around me. But मुझे लगता है कि लोगों को इसके बारे में बात करने के लिए शब्द भी नहीं है.
जी.
They don't know how to describe it. They don't know what to say.
I agree.
So I took time to think about it, to see whether I wanted to share this, what it'll mean to share this. And I felt like I could, at least in that sense, be helpful. To be like, it's a thing, I have it. It's not the end of the world, and you don't have to be embarrassed about it. So that's why.
या पर पहला डर ये था क्योंकि आप एक प्रिविलेज फैमिली से आते, यू कम फ्रॉम अ फैमिली विच हैज़ आमिर खान एज योर फादर. जब आपने पहली बार ये उनको कहा तब उनका क्या रिएक्शन था?
उनको मेरी डिप्रेशन के बारे में बताया या उनको बताया कि मैं इंस्टाग्राम पे बोलने वाली हूँ?
दोनों.
I don't think I told him I was putting it on Instagram.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Obviously, when I told both my parents, they were worried. Also, you don't figure it all out together at the same time. The first step is, I'm not feeling so good.
Yeah.
These are the things happening to me, but I don't necessarily know what it is yet. Then you go to a doctor, you get a test done, you figure it out. And so it's not like I said one sentence and then it was over. So of course there was concern, and I was studying in the Netherlands, wanting to drop out, whatever, lots of decisions to be made in that sense. In general, mental health, anything really that is not really in your control. My family, my dad has, put this faith or belief in us that it's not shameful.
Absolutely.
And so that was never questioned. What was important was that I was responsible in how I was sharing it and what I was comfortable with sharing. Because whether or not either of us have any control of it, yes, people will say things. And so I had to think about how I felt about that and whether I would be okay with it. Because if you're putting something out in the public, you're giving people permission to comment on it.
Yeah.
Then you can't say, why did you say this? I mean, you're literally saying, here,
Yeah.
I'm saying something publicly, have a thought.
जी. तो फिर कैसे मन बनाया कि आई विल से इट पब्लिकली? डर नहीं लग रहा था उस टाइम पे? व्हाट आई वांट टू आस्क, I'll tell you why I'm asking this. 3 years ago I was interviewing Shruti Hassan. She has also gone through a similar phase of mental health concerns, and she said when she first opened it out to her parents, they were very supportive. They said yes, absolutely, you need therapy and all of that, but then also other reaction was, oh, what did we do? हमने क्या किया that something like this has happened with you? Now that is a very natural reaction of a parent. It could be Aamir Khan, it could be Kamal Hassan, it could be my father, as common man as it could be. It's a parent concern. Ki yaar, what did I do that you're going through this? Was that a concern of Aamir sir as well?
I think, I mean, neither of my parents ever said that to me. But I think at some point, both of them, so somewhere, so the first time I told them was 2017, 2016. Then I dropped out finally for the last time in 2018. So then when I came home that time, that's when I started my medication and all of that. So during that time, I could tell that both of them were extremely worried because they started to sort of go off on their own fears and tangents. And I was like, hello, I'm the child. Come back.
I need the focus.
I need help right now. Your fears can go deal with them later somewhere else.
Yeah.
But they never said that. They never openly blamed themselves. But I'm sure they felt those things, even though they know that it's not in their control and no one person can.
Yeah. It's a culmination of a lot
many
of things.
So,
lot of things.
I hope they don't blame themselves.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah. You know, Dwayne Johnson, I mean, when you see the man, he comes across as so strong, but he's opened up about depression, and he's also said his one line is so popular. He says, "Depression does not discriminate." है ना? There is this swimmer, American swimmer called Michael Phelps. He has 28 Olympic medals. Can you believe it? I mean, people strive for one. He's attempted suicide because he's gone through a downtime. Back home, it's Deepika Padukone who's spoken about it, Shruti Hassan who's spoken about it, Rahman Saab has spoken about it. I don't think it's a disease or an illness of a privilege. It's a situation that people go through. है ना? In your 2020 video, when you came out, you said three things very big at the beginning of the video. One, you said, of course, at a very young age, your parents got divorced. Then you said at 6, you were diagnosed with tuberculosis. And then you said at 14, you were sexually abused. But then you said something which kind of surprised me. You said you moved past these things and you don't necessarily held these as the reasons for your mental health struggle. Ira, can you move past these?
So I said that at that time. I said that when I was trying to figure out why am I feeling these things, I was like, okay, let's take account of my life. What has happened to me? What bad things have happened? So I made a list of these 3 things that were my top bad things that have happened to me. And I was like, none of these seem to be so big in my mind that it should make me feel this bad. All of this is just like thoughts in your head. There is no way to say this is worse than that or this is less bad than that. In my video, I was trying to explain that I tried these logical, rational ways of trying to understand why this is happening, and they don't work. Because now, if you had to ask me, my parents' divorce wasn't one day. It was something that then changed all our lives. Since that day, many things happened because of that. Many good things happened because of that. Many maybe not good things happened. Maybe things happened that we didn't even know happened. Right? My sexual abuse, again, was not a one-day thing. It's not like once it stops happening, it has no effect on me anymore. So...
It happened for a year.
Yeah.
If I'm not mistaken. Why didn't you say anything? No, really. I mean, why, Ira, you did not say anything at that age?
Because that's what... I mean, okay, there's 2 sides to it. One, ask someone from psychology and they might give you another answer as to why it's difficult to speak up and how there's shame involved.
There's shame attached
and
to it.
There's fear when you're a child as to various things. All that, I don't know. If you're asking me in that moment why I didn't say anything, which will not make sense to any rational human being, is in that moment I wasn't sure whether they knew what they were doing, because I sort of knew them a little bit and I was like, no, this can't be actually happening. And I wasn't, I don't know, I didn't and I couldn't, and then finally I could, so then I did. It's quite complicated, and I don't know whether it's necessarily helpful to try and understand why someone didn't say anything in that moment, because it's not rational. So my mind may come up with any sort of reasoning to do whatever I think is protecting me. So whether it's protecting me from the shame of being outcast if I tell anyone, or it, whatever, it doesn't make sense at all. And yeah, that's the annoying part.
It is now.
Yeah, because when you look back, now anything that I tell you will sound very silly as a reason. If you have to logically think about it, looking back, whatever I tell you now, it'll be like, that's silly. Why didn't you say something?
No, I will understand because
No,
I
no,
know
not you.
there are no judgments
I'm
attached
saying
to it.
I will. When I look back and I'm like, why didn't you say anything? Every thought that my mind can come up with, looking back now, will be like, that's not reason enough to not say anything. You could have, you should have. But when you're in that moment, other non-logical things are happening because, like you said, there's so many different things affecting each of your decisions all the time. So, wish I knew.
Yeah. The reason I asked you this question about moving past this is because I personally, from my experience, I don't feel you can completely 100% move on from it. My parents are still together, but in my childhood, I remember by one of the most strongest memories of them is always fighting and quarreling, which is why even today, if anybody around me starts screaming, I immediately get anxious. Ranbir recently spoke about this on Nikhil Kamat's podcast, also a very similar incident that he's gone through. Did your parents' divorce have these impact on you?
No, in the sense that they didn't fight at all. Around us, there was always a united front, and the families loved each other through the whole thing. Which is why, when I was making my list, I was like, no, this divorce cannot be something that is affecting me in a negative manner. Because if you asked me, I would be like, it's fine that they had a divorce. Like, that's their choice. They wanted to. It has had no negative impact on me whatsoever. And so when people would come to me and say, I'm so sorry to hear about whatever, I'd be like, what are you sorry about? I'm fine.
But this affects no, Ira. Somebody
But
comes and
then
says,
I grew up and I realized that even though that there's a difference between, I realized that something broke, a relationship ended, right? Maybe it ended for the better, but still something got ended, right? So there is a certain amount of pain that comes with anything breaking, anything ending, which I refuse to look at. And consciously, of course, right? As a kid, I was just like, no. And what I realized later on is that my parents did a great job in making us feel safe and secure that even though they are separating, we will still be loved equally and the family will still be a family. So that they managed very well. I discussed this with my therapist, and I think that what it did was made me feel like I have to be okay with everything. So divorce happened, it's fine. Nobody's sad about it. So I started thinking that no matter what happens, you have to be okay with it. Which is now unfortunate that that's what my mind perceived from the whole situation. But that's what happens, right? When you're growing up, you perceive whatever you do from things around you. And so there will be things that happen to you at various stages of your life which will have an impact on you.
yeah.
And I feel like don't blame them, but don't pretend like they didn't happen,
Yeah.
so that then you can do something about
Yeah.
them.
Yeah.
There's no need to blame anybody, but you can't be like, it didn't happen to me.
Yeah. Don't
Hua.
push it aside.
Yeah, hua. And everything that happens will have a consequence, impact, good, bad. I touch this mic, it will make a sound.
Yeah. Yeah. It will.
So I can't pretend like it won't. But I don't have to blame myself for doing that either. So I think that's how I try and navigate it. Some things you'll realize and you'll have to be like, okay, happened, accept it. There's nothing I can do about it.
Yeah.
But then here, these are the things that I can do something about.
Yeah.
And then you sort of find your peace
Yeah.
in that balance.
Yeah. Yeah. For anyone who's going through mental health struggle at this point in time, how do they actually differentiate between being sad, unhappy, anxious, and depressed?
nobody wants to be depressed. And nobody wants to be anxious. Now, when I'm saying anxious and depressed, I'm talking about the clinical disorder.
Yeah.
So, usually how you get diagnosed with this is if it happens often, if it happens for a long time, and if the intensity is very high. Please go to a professional, okay? Don't self-diagnose. But if you think that something might not be okay, go check now with the doctor.
Yeah.
Why are you guessing? My thing is, if you've had the thought, क्या मुझे therapy करनी चाहिए, go check. What will happen? Nothing will happen. And so, to me, if there's a doubt in your head, go test it. And otherwise, I think that, like you said, if you can't figure out, if there's no reason, you can't tell why it's happening, and it's affecting your day-to-day functioning.
Yeah.
That to me is a good indicator. So compare yourself with yourself. I used to be able to do this. Now I am not being able to do what I used to be able to do. Do I need to get my vitamins checked? Do I need to sleep? Have I been sleeping properly? Have I been eating properly? So if you're not feeling good, check your food, check your water, check your sleep. If all those three things are correct, then go check with the doctor.
Yeah. But it's a good thing. I want to repeat it for everyone who's seeing it, that if everything is going good, but if your day-to-day life still is impacted, is when you have to take stock of the situation. Is that correct?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. How did you realize it?
I started to cry 8 hours a day, which is weird for me because I was not someone who used to cry.
And you just randomly started crying.
I was reading about Napoleon in school and I started crying. It was completely bizarre. I stopped being able to brush my teeth. I stopped being able to shower. I stopped eating. I would be fine with cold food. Imagine if you love someone, you care for someone, will you feed them cold food?
No.
No. You will make sure you heat the food and give it to them.
Yeah.
That's my new way of looking at it. If you had a child or a niece or a nephew, would you let them go to sleep in the same clothes that they played in the whole day?
Of course not.
It won't kill them.
Yeah.
They
No,
can
of
go to
course,
sleep in
yeah.
those same clothes. Nothing will happen.
But it's not healthy. It's not your way to show love.
You just wouldn't. Like it's not, when it comes to you, you think of, will it harm me? If not, okay, fine, I'll put in effort. So, अगर इसका कुछ बुरा होगा तो मैं कुछ करूँगी. But just out of affection and care, it doesn't matter, I'll sleep in the same clothes. No. Then you're not caring for yourself. So when I finally told my parents, like, hey, I need help not working, I had stopped eating because I couldn't be bothered to eat. I was just too much effort for me to get out of bed, to get food, to eat it. And that is when I was like, okay, this is not normal, Ira. You should tell somebody. So that's what happened with me.
Were you scared before your first therapy session or your proper appointment with a doctor? I really was.
To me, I'm very afraid of my depression. I'm very, I have lots and lots of fear. I have fear about what am I going to do with my life. If I can't brush my teeth, if I can't get out of bed, then all this 26 years of investment my family has put into me is going to go into complete waste.
Yeah.
Anyway, we have overpopulation. People don't have food to eat. I'm just one extra living being now, not being able to do anything. Gotten married to someone who's decided to spend their whole life with me. If I'm just lying in bed all day crying, then I'm
It's unfair to
it's
them.
unfair to them also. So there are many other things that I was very afraid of. And I'm constantly afraid of failing, constantly afraid of disappointing my
Even
parents.
today?
Yeah, all the time. With Agatsu, I get very scared because I've started a company. I've employed other people in that company.
Yeah.
I may be privileged, and if I lose my job, then nothing will happen to me. But I have 15 employees whose livelihood now depends on whether I fail or succeed at Agatsu. So if I fail at Agatsu and Agatsu is to shut down, 15 other people are going to not have jobs.
Yeah.
So now me failing is not just me failing. And I feel like a child sometimes because I'm just learning how to do these things. And I'm making decisions that affect more than just me,
Yeah.
financially and emotionally. And, is it okay that I'm not earning any money and I'm just doing this? On good days, I feel I'm doing enough and I'm doing something that's worth it, and it's fine if I'm not making money because I don't need to. I have that privilege. Why am I not using it? So those days are fine. But then there's some days that I feel like maybe I'm a waste of space. Maybe I'm not doing enough. Maybe I'm doing it all wrong. There's a learning curve, but I feel like if someone else did it and they would make less mistakes, there would be less waste of resources. And I'm wasting resources every time I make a mistake. And they're not my resources to waste. So I have lots of other fears. But this going to the doctor thing was not a fear. I was like, please take me to a doctor. Please, somebody help me. I don't know how to help myself. I've tried for 3.5 years. All I do is cry and cry and cry and get a headache. And I don't know what to do. And I did my best to use my brain to figure it out. And it feels, there's no way to describe how horrible it feels. And sometimes it just feels like nothing. So then, like, I don't care enough to live, to speak. And when I say live, I don't mean die. I just mean it's too much effort to speak. It's too much effort to eat. It's too much effort to interact with you. That's what I mean by live. So at that point, I'm like, I don't know. Please help me. Take me to whichever doctor you want to take me to. As many of them for however long. Just help me.
You think you are too harsh on yourself? You've heard this before, I know.
Yes. Everybody's harsh on themselves.
I think you're a little too harsh on yourself.
I'm working on it. I'm trying. So I don't like affirmations because I didn't understand them. People would say this and again to yourself, and I was like, I don't believe it. Why I'll say it to myself again and again? Then I realized how they actually work. You have to phrase your own affirmation.
Okay.
So you have to live through something, then come up with a phrase that reminds you of that learning, and then say it again and again. For example, try till you succeed. So irritating. Hate cliches.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, this one is annoying.
But during my depression, at some point I had just started my medication and I had started my therapy, and I realized that some days when I got tired, I'd be like, chal, leave it, watch TV, go to sleep, wake up the next morning, try again. Do as much as you can today. And what happened was I would the frequency at which I would start feeling tired reduced, and the time between I can't function increased. So I realized that if I feel like today I can't, it's fine, because I can go to sleep, wake up tomorrow and try again.
Yeah.
So I cannot say try till you succeed. I will punch you in the face. But I can say tomorrow is a new day.
Yeah.
And to me, that reminds me that I experienced this. It worked for me. I will forget 6 months later that this worked for me. The next time I feel bad, I'm not going to remember.
Yeah.
So then an affirmation will work for me because I learned it. I gave it this articulation of this sentence, and I am reminding myself of something that I learned. So I believe it.
Yeah.
And you need to verbally say to yourself, don't be hard on yourself, don't be hard on yourself.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're so used to your old pattern
Beating
of
yourself.
behavior
Yeah.
that you won't change that. So now I get affirmations. And I'm like, okay. So now everywhere in my room, on my desk, drink water. You are a competent human being. Everybody is an adult. They are responsible for their own decisions. Take more time.
Take more time. Yeah.
Yeah. You don't have to send the email today.
Yeah.
You can send it tomorrow. The world will not end.
I think if nothing works, you can still keep saying all is well, all is well. and that will help you for that moment. But didn't you ever have the pressure to become an actress?
No.
Not from your father, of course. I know he would not do it, but people around?
No. In fact, everyone was like, oh, you will get into acting. So I was like, no, I will not. Now I will do anything but that. So, yeah.
Why was this? But why were you against it? Just because people were saying, or you were not interested in it? I mean, these are two different things.
When you're 6, what do you know what you want to do? At that point, you don't actually know what you want to do.
Yeah.
So you're only responding to what people are telling you. So when people would say it, I would be like, no, I'm not interested. I never actually thought about it or anything. And then once I got older, I realized that I wasn't interested. I'm not good at it. I'm too shy. There are 15 other things that I am far more excited about doing.
Yeah.
And I would much rather do those.
Yeah. One of them is Agatsu.
The top thing is Agatsu, which was not planned at all. I had no intent whatsoever of starting a company. I didn't study math. I didn't study business. I didn't study anything. I don't know anything about running a company. So Agatsu was not a plan at all. It just happened. And now this is what I'm going to do for the rest of my life. There's no question about it. There's no
You've
other
committed
option.
to it. For everyone who's watching this, what is Agatsu? What does it do? Where is it? And what is the plan for it?
So Agatsu is my mental health organization. It is a community center. There's a space in Bandra next to Mini Punjab. Little complicated to find. Inside Pali village, very cute. So we started a community center where it's open 12 to 8, Wednesday to Sunday. Come, it's free. Chill, learn Kathak, Capoeira, art, anything. There are lots of classes. We have classes specifically for senior citizens. So we have a physio who comes twice a week for physical mobility, agility things. We do cognitive hour with senior citizens. We do creative and social. So we realize that a lot of them are just lonely and, want to meet people, step out of the house. So we have senior hour for senior citizens. And we have lots of different activities that you can come and learn and do. Free tea and coffee, Nescafe, okay? No fancy, snobby.
No Starbucks
sorry,
is coming in, yeah.
But you can bring your own fancy
Yeah,
coffee.
of course.
But we will give you free tea and coffee, dip. There's Wi-Fi, there's AC. So if you need a place to study or work and you don't want to work at home or you don't want to spend money on Starbucks, then you can just come sit. We have a cat. Then we have peer supports. Okay. So peer support is you and I have been through a similar experience. For example, you mentioned that you feel anxious from time to time. I've also dealt with anxiety. So we'll sit with other people who've all gone through anxiety and we'll talk about how we feel, because I may be able to understand in fewer words what you mean when someone else can't. And it'll make you feel less alone.
Yeah.
You can tell me things that you've tried to do for your anxiety that may or may not have helped you, and I can tell you what I've tried.
Yeah.
So we have peer supports for grief, caregivers, LGBTQIA+, psychologists, youth, which is 18 to 25, survivors of child sexual abuse, new moms, neurodivergent agents and lots.
Yeah.
We have lots of peer supports. They're all free. So everything at Agatsu is free. Please just come and use it if you need to, if you want to. Nobody checks whether you have a mental health disorder or not. Anybody can come. As long as you're 12 years and above, you can come. Play games, do art, meet people, chat, whatever you want. You don't have to have a mental health disorder. We also offer therapy, which is the only thing that's paid for. It's on a sliding scale from 50 rupees to 750 rupees, whatever you can afford. So if you say I can only pay 50 rupees per session, it's fine. Only 50 rupees per session. So it's on a sliding scale. Yeah. So that's what we do as of now. We have events every Sunday. So you can come perform at open mic. Wow. Everyone is very supportive. It's very hard to work on Sundays because there is like performances and screaming and shouting. It's like a party. So yeah, we do different events and around mental health and just life. Get out, meet people, connect with real people. And now we're looking to start a content vertical because we realized that we want to encourage people stepping out and meeting each other and connecting, because when nothing else works, meeting someone and talking to someone makes you feel better. But we would also like to be able to share information to more people, reach more people. So we're also looking to start a content vertical, because sometimes they're very simple questions that you don't know where to get the
answers
a reliable answer from. So the idea is to collate verified information and be able to.
Can we speak a little about medication? Because there is fear attached to it. I still have it. Deepika Padukone has spoken also that initially she was not receptive to medicines because, I mean, the worst or the best thing people can do today is Google. And Google says many things about medicines that comes with or for mental illness. What is your own personal experience? Were you scared for medication? That is question number one. Question number two is, does it really have side effects? And if it does, what are the side effects?
Every medicine has different side effects. I was not afraid because, like I said, if I find a doctor that I trust, then I trust the doctor. Ask questions. तो अगर आपको दवाई दी गई है, पूछो इससे होता क्या है. Each medicine has a long list of side effects. Not all of them will necessarily happen to you.
Okay.
I learned that people don't realize, अगर आप साइकाइट्रिस्ट के पास जाते हो और वो आपको दवाई देता है और या दवाई देती है और वो आपको सूट नहीं होता, आप फिर से जाओ, उनको बोलो कि सूट नहीं हुआ, वो बदलेंगे. There are some antidepressants that make you put on weight. There are some antidepressants that make you lose weight. There are some antidepressants that disrupt your sleep.
Yeah.
It depends. My medication gives me insomnia.
Oh.
So I have to take it before 12 p.m. So if I take it in the morning, then it doesn't mess with my sleep.
Yeah.
But if I take it in the evening, then I won't be able to sleep.
Oh.
So you figure this out with your doctor. There are so many different medicine available now that you should be able to go to your doctor and be like, this is not working for me, this is working for you. And there should be a bunch of options as far as I know, at least with depression. There should be a few different options for you to try. You don't necessarily have to settle on the first medicine that they give you. It takes some time to have effect. So I think anywhere between 2 weeks to a month, you have to see how it is affecting you. You have to give it time. There are some disorders, like for example bipolar disorder, where there's a up and a down. So you have a depressive dip and then you have a manic high. Problem is there's no genetic test to do. So you discover what your mental illness is as you experience it. So I didn't realize that my depression is cyclic, so it comes back.
Okay.
Every time I had another depressive episode, I was like, I failed. again it's happened. I didn't do enough to make it go away the first time. Then after 4 years, I found out that no, it's the same depression. It's not a new one.
Yeah.
I'm very simply be saying these things, okay? Please talk to your doctor. But basically, different people's mental illnesses will manifest differently. Bipolar disorder is one that is a little bit tricky because when you're sad, you'll ask for help.
Yeah.
But when you're feeling on top of the world, you're not going to ask for help because everything's fine. So you'll go to a psychiatrist only when you're feeling the low of bipolar disorder, and you'll tell them all your symptoms, and so they'll give you an antidepressant, and then that antidepressant will trigger your mania. So then you'll spike and you'll blame your doctor.
Yeah.
But you didn't tell your doctor the other symptoms that you had because you didn't see them as symptoms because you thought you were fine. So you also need to give your doctor some time to get to know you and get to know your thing. Second opinions are always helpful. If you switch doctors too quickly, you're not giving the person enough time to get to know you.
Yeah.
So obviously you come first, put your safety first, but see whether you've given them enough time. Ask for references, if you feel like I don't know which doctors to trust, then ask people word of mouth as of now is the only way I know to get a good referral. You can be okay without medication with certain disorders. It's not a medication is good or bad, it's you need to figure out for you what you need in your situation. So don't blanket be scared of them, and don't blanket be for them. Sometimes you can't just take medicine and not do anything else. It won't help. If I'm on medication, but if I don't do all my other self-care things, my medication will only work so much. I won't be able to function normally. And sometimes I cannot, for me, I need to be on medication. I won't be able to only do self-care things and regulate on my own. So I need both things. What's important is you look at, you realize how many different things can affect you and your well-being, from enough friends, enough spending time outside, enough rest, enough intellectual stimulus. If you're bored doing the same thing again, do a Sudoku puzzle. Use your mind and body differently. So know that there are many avenues that together affect your well-being. And it's not a yes or no to medication.
Since you were speaking about Agatsu, this just came to my mind. On Anupama Chopra's interview recently, Aamir sir said that he spent 6 months at Agatsu recently when he was deciding to quit films completely. Is he very involved?
So when I just started Agatsu, which is when he was trying to figure out whether he wanted to quit films or not quit films, he decided we will spend time together. So I said, okay. So he came to Agatsu, and I spent very long telling him all the many problems that are there in the space. And then I finished, and he was like, I don't know what to do. It's like, damn it, he was supposed to solve my problems for me. So he did get involved. Now he's on the advisory board. But mostly then he went back to films, and I went to this. And twice a year I call them and I give them a full lowdown
of what happened. Yeah, but I think that meeting must have inspired him कि नहीं मैं वापस जाके movie करता हूँ, है ना?
Too scared. No, mental health, I don't want to work in. I'll just go back to making films.
How did you convince him? Though he said it, that you and Junaid convinced him कि जाओ जाके movies करो. Please don't spend too much time with us.
No. We basically were trying to tell him that he doesn't need to make extreme decisions. He doesn't have to swing from one end to the other end. He just chill. Take a deep breath. Decide next week.
Thank you for doing that. For everyone who loves him, thank you for doing that.
Anytime.
So what I was telling you before this was that when somebody goes through this, one, like I spoke about my anxiety, I realized subconsciously I was putting that pressure of my anxiety on my wife also, because she was the only person I spoke to. And if I'm anxious about reaching somewhere on time, I'm like, jaldi karo, jaldi karo, jaldi karo. And I realized this is a very basic, silly example, but so many other things happened which I felt I was passing on that anxiety on my partner, which is unfair. When you and Nupur started dating, did you have this connection, a conversation with him, and where did you draw a boundary saying, I will not let this impact my personal space?
I don't think it's possible to
Oh.
not let it impact your personal space. You can manage it, but there will be an impact on it. I was afraid to get into a relationship with him because I was like, I don't know what is going on in my own head. I was going through another depressive episode during that time. And I was like, it's not fair to him for me to be so confused and not sure about what is happening. Hence the affirmation, people are adults, they can make their own decisions. So what I did was I went and told him what I was thinking, what I was fearing, what was going on in my head. And I said, instead of me deciding for our relationship, we will decide for our relationship. So I realized that it's helpful if I told him whatever was on my mind, so that since both of us are part of this relationship, we can both decide how best we can work with this, how much we want to, who wants to, etc. And since then, it has been a lot of investment in learning to communicate with each other, to help him help me, and help me and him know when he needs to take a break. And that's why you need to have many people in your support circle, so that you're not constantly leaning on only one person the whole time. And this doesn't mean everybody needs to know all your problems. They don't necessarily need to know. You just need to make separate people who can distract you from time to time, who can do different things with you, so that you're not which is the normal healthy thing to do in life also. Even if you don't have a mental health problem, you should distribute your needs amongst various people. Because that also, Bollywood movies are like, oh, one true love, everything ends and begins with this person, which is highly unrealistic. And so I feel like we've spent time and learned how to communicate with each other, so that he takes a break when he needs to, and I have other people I can reach out to.
How involved do a partner still has to be in a situation like this?
I
It's
do
a
fully.
lot of responsibility.
No, completely. It's a huge decision, because you know how much I can travel. I can't stay up at night. Now, thankfully, he doesn't want to either. But if I had a partner who wanted to, I cannot. I have to sleep at night. If I don't sleep at night, my mental health goes for a complete toss. Like not normal amounts of toss. Really wrecks me. So I don't have a choice about these things. And so I have to live my life in a certain way. And I'm happy about it. Like, I'm not feeling restricted. I love going to sleep early. Oh my God, it's the best thing ever.
Really?
Suddenly, no. I want to do many things, okay? I want to read, and I want to do this course, and I want to watch this movie and all of those things. And I'm always like, there's not enough time in the day, there are not enough hours in the day. Wake up at 8. I promise you, suddenly, the day has hours. And you can do whatever it is you want to do. Imagine if you slept for 8 hours. That means you have 16 hours left in your day. That means you work for another 8 hours. You still have 8 more hours.
This is not practically possible.
It is. I've been sleeping at... well, I had another depressive episode in the middle. But genuinely, if you start doing that, you realize there's so many more hours in the day. Also, I don't scroll on Instagram.
Acha, you don't scroll on. Blessing. Hai na?
I scroll on Zomato. And I scroll on Amazon. I don't scroll on Instagram. But yeah, he has to be a part of everything, and in the sense that any big decision he'll be a part of. So yeah.
Has he ever felt burdened?
You'll have to ask him that. Whenever I ask him, he's like, no, I'm fine. But that's because he's also very good at taking care of himself. So from the beginning, he knows when he needs to make sure that he's okay.
Yeah.
He'll go for a run and come back. He'll be frustrated and irritated. He'll go for a run. He'll come back and he'll be like, now say what you wanted to say. What are you feeling sad about? Now I'm ready. I'm like, go shower.
First, very important. No, this was my fear actually, initially. I hope I'm not burdening the other person by giving out so much of myself in true honesty.
But I think it also then allows the other person to give back to you.
Yeah.
So if I can show you that I am this vulnerable and in this much pain, then hopefully when you feel that way, you can also show it to me.
Yeah.
And I think, as long as you find that balance, it's healthier for the relationship because it increases the amount of communication you have. So it's helped him communicate with me also better.
Yeah. I have a very important question to ask you. Why did Nupur wear ganji and shorts in the wedding?
It's really not such a big deal.
No, it's fun. I think I thought it was so much fun.
He wanted to run to the wedding because that's his thing. And he used to take that route during lockdown.
Oh, really?
Because you couldn't drive. So to meet me, he would, whenever they started to allow people to run and to work out, he would run to me.
Wow.
And so instead of a barat and coming on a horse and all of those things, he decided he wanted to run to the venue.
Yeah.
So he ran to the venue. He did not anticipate that media would follow him and that it would become a thing.
Yeah.
But that happened. But it was just that.
It was a fun wedding. From what we saw from outside, it looked like a lot of fun.
It was we will do what we want to do.
Yeah, clearly.
To celebrate our coming together.
Yeah. I have some pictures to show you. Can I? I just want to know a little bit about these moments, a little bit about these special things. It's all from your Instagram, obviously. The first picture is this one. I've seen the video of this moment also, but I want you to speak a little about it.
I wanted a really long veil just for dramatic effect. Okay. But I didn't actually then know what to do with that veil. So I had to walk down the aisle on this long veil. Then I needed to get it off my head because my friend had made me a tiara and I wanted to show the tiara. So the veil had to come off. And we realized that since my father's worked in the film industry, he knows how to use bobby pins. So he will be the best person to take this veil off my head.
Really?
Yeah.
That was the reason you call him to do it?
No, obviously he was also standing next to me. But between my mom and my dad, we figured my dad would be better at taking the bobby pin off my head.
It's a very sweet moment, actually. It's a very pyara moment that you see in the video.
Yes. I was squatting. We're both short.
Yeah.
So then I had to also squat. I have no memory. I'm so small. This is in my dad's house before the divorce. I think I'm like 1 or something. How I'll remember?
Oh, this is 1. This is
something like that. I'm 1 or 2.
This is from your Insta page only. I thought you'll have some memory around it.
No, it's just when I was cute.
Yeah.
I think at 5 I was my cutest. 5-year-old me is the cutest me to have existed.
So you live separately after the divorce?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So I think I was 4 when we moved out, but we lived very close by.
So the proximity was there,
yeah,
it was just the houses got different.
Yeah. It was like 50 meters.
Oh, acha.
Very close.
So then that did not affect the dynamic in any way?
See, I don't think so. But I can't tell because I was a child. Also, I think it's very hard to say, no? Especially because with my dad's job, he was traveling in any case. So it's a little hard to say whether shifting houses affected the dynamic. I'm sure it did. Because there's a difference between coming home to people and having to walk those 50 extra meters to meet people. But it was fine.
In that video, he says also, Ira bahut jaldi bari ho gayi.
See, now it's my wedding day. He's emotional.
Yeah.
So that is, you speak to him. But we were always between the houses because my grandmom also lived in the same building upstairs. So we were all always around there.
Yeah. Next one.
Oh my God! I had no idea
हाँ
that Nick Jonas was going to be there.
हाँ.
First though,
This is which event?
the opening of NMAC.
Oh, अच्छा, okay. हाँ.
My father doesn't communicate properly when it comes to, oh, we have to go for this event.
हाँ.
He says, hey, we have to go for this, come. He doesn't tell you dress code. He doesn't tell you any of these things. So then I show up in the best guess that I can take. And then I get trolled on Instagram for not dressing appropriately. I had no idea it was such a fancy event. I didn't know what we
was
were
very
going
fancy.
for. I reached there and I was like, oh my God. Anyway, so yeah, and then I saw him and I was like, I have to, because my best friend was supposed to get married to him, right? So
Yeah,
I
yeah,
had
correct.
to. I had to go up to him and be like, listen, I don't do this. I don't go up to people and ask for photos because I know how irritating it is. But literally, my best friend was supposed to marry you, so I have to take this photo for us, for the 5-year-old us.
How did he react?
He was very chill about it.
Yeah.
He was very sweet. He's like, yeah, sure.
Any conversation you all had?
I asked him how the weather is.
Mm.
And then I was like, that's a stupid question because he's obviously been here more times than now. But yeah, no, we did it. And then him and Popeye were like,
Jamming together.
boy
Ah.
nods. I was like, okay, cool.
Last one. This one.
Oh, this was Raksha Bandhan. I don't remember how many years ago it was, but clearly looking at my face and my weight, it was many years ago. So we do both ways Raksha Bandhan. The sisters tie the brothers and the brothers tie the sisters and the sisters tie the sisters. Whoever feels like
wow.
tying, whoever. So this was at a Raksha Bandhan celebration at Imran Bhai's house.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Sweet. The family is very close. I know.
Yeah. I call everybody my cousin, and then I realized that technically they're my second cousin, but I have no sense of second cousin, first cousin. To me, they're just, we all lived very close by,
Yeah.
and we all grew up together. We're all like 50 meters away from each other.
Yeah. Yeah. Again, on Instagram, there's another thing which I saw. It says, the note said, I'm a suicide prevention gatekeeper certified by QPR, which is Question, Persuade, Refer, Suicide Prevention Training, and SPIF, which is Suicide Prevention India Foundation. This you put up in September 22. So you are, can you make me understand what exactly this is?
Yeah. So when someone is feeling suicidal, there is actually something that we can all do to help
Okay.
in terms of helping them hold on in that moment and get them to the right help. So you don't have to give them treatment, you don't have to solve their problems or any of that, but you can act as a gatekeeper to help them till they find help.
Okay.
So you can get training to be able to spot signs that someone is feeling suicidal, to be able to talk to them in a way that is encouraging and hopeful, and then to be able to help them get the right help. And there are many organizations that train you in this course. There's a online 1-hour module, there's a 3-hour module.
Okay.
There are different organizations that you can get trained in. And so I can train people. I'm an instructor in suicide prevention gatekeeper training.
Okay.
And very basic rules. Don't judge them.
Obviously.
And when I say don't judge them, I mean don't say what will your parents think. That is automatically a judgment. You're making them worry about someone. You're saying you're going to disappoint your parents or you're going to do something to your parents if you do this, right? What, like, think about your family or think about
In their most vulnerable
in their
moments.
most, you may be saying that to make them remember their family, but that might come across as not helpful because they might be feeling like they are burdening their family. So then their response to that would be, I am thinking about my family, right? So you cannot assume what will help them and what won't help them. in terms of what parts of their life they're happy with or not happy with. You can't assume those things. So a lot of people think that if I ask someone about feeling suicidal, I'll put the idea in their heads. That cannot happen. You cannot plant the idea
Of course.
of suicide in somebody's mind. Either they're feeling suicidal or they're not feeling suicidal.
Yeah.
So the thing is that most of the times people respond with silence or looking away because it's so scary.
Yeah.
It's really scary when someone says, yes, I am feeling suicidal. It's not something you want to hear.
Yeah.
And so, but what I've realized is it's really important to realize that if you do ask, as long as you don't ask with judgment, you can only be doing good. As long as there's no judgment in your sentence, either they'll say no, and then you can say, okay, just know that I'm there if you want to talk about it. So you've left the door open. So even if they don't want to admit it to you, they know that there is someone in the world who they can say it to who will not judge them. And sometimes nobody else may have asked them or noticed before. So then they just feel less alone. They don't feel like they have to go through this on their own.
Okay.
Do not promise confidentiality, because it doesn't matter if your friend is angry with you. It's fine. At least they're alive. So don't promise confidentiality, and don't promise 24/7 availability, because you won't be there 24/7.
Yeah.
It's much, much nicer to me if you tell me, hey, listen, I have a meeting from 5 to 8. I won't pick up the phone, but I'll call you after that.
Yeah.
I can't meet you right now. I have this. Does not mean I'm saying no, I can't meet. I'm just saying I will meet you at this time.
Yeah.
So instead of, so being honest and open about your availability will make them feel better because they know you're coming back.
Yeah.
And you're not saying I'll be there all the time and then not showing up.
Yeah. Yeah.
So there's a whole course, obviously, around suicide prevention. But there are some things that we can all do little bits to just be there for the people around us, to be able to help them get the help that they need.
Yeah. You said you can identify signs in a person if that person is suicidal. What are these signs?
There are many kinds of signs. So you have behavioral signs, you have verbal signs, and you have situational signs. So situational would be something that is basically there are situations that usually lead to people being isolated and overwhelmed. So for example, any big change in your life. So if someone is getting a divorce, if someone is relocating and they don't necessarily want to relocate, for sometimes for women, if it's getting married when they don't want to get married. So there are certain situations when you lose someone, when someone passes away, or you lose a job. So sometimes there are certain situations that can increase the risk of someone reaching a place where they are feeling suicidal. Then there are behavioral signs, like you start withdrawing from people, you start giving away things that you used to hold dear to you because you're no longer going to need them. These are sort of some of the signs
that you keep in mind.
To notice that someone is, it would be something to look out for. It's not if they do this, then it means they're suicidal. It's a keep an eye out for these things.
Yeah.
And if you feel like, and it's always safer to ask than to not ask.
Yeah.
And I think the verbal, indirect ones are the, strangest to realize.
Yeah.
So obviously verbal direct would be, I don't want to live anymore. Those sorts of things would be a direct verbal way of indicating that I'm feeling suicidal. But there are non-direct ways in which you can say it, like I want to sleep and never wake up, or I want to run away, or you'd be better off without me, or things like that. So you're not directly saying that you want to end your life, but
it goes on that path at
it's
least. Yeah. Why did you take up this training? Have you ever experienced a vulnerable situation like that?
a friend of mine died by suicide. And when I was getting into the mental health space, I found QPR and SPIF, and so I did the course. And then I actually, while doing the course, I was like, oh, because I always said that I wanted to sleep and not wake up. And I used to sleep for 10, 12 hours every day, because I didn't want to be alive. So sleep. Then you don't have to deal with reality. And I used to want to go into a coma for 5 years, just so that everything that is going on will be over by the time I wake up. And so also there are times when people having these thoughts, but they're not consciously connecting it to I don't want to live.
Yeah.
They might just be having these thoughts and not thinking about actually ending their lives. So, you know, and a lot of people have this question that, you know, is it normal to feel suicidal once in your life or whatever? And I mean, I think it's normal to wonder about death.
Yeah.
And be curious about death at some point in your life. I'm sure everybody has been. It's about when the thoughts get intrusive.
Yeah.
When you can't get rid of them. When, you know, and even if you don't plan on ever executing the thought, or ever doing anything to yourself, just having the thought is painful. Having the thought is scary. And you don't need to live with that. And so even if you feel like, oh, don't worry, I'm not actually going to do anything to myself, just the fact that you have to think those thoughts, that you are feeling those thoughts, is really painful and not something that anyone
should
experience. And you don't need to, even if you think, oh, it's not such a big deal. It is a big enough deal.
Yeah.
So, I mean, when I realized how frequent it is, the rates of suicide are really high in India.
It is.
And when I realized how any amount of hope can make you carry on, I was just like, how to not do this?
Yeah.
Like, it seemed like there was not really too much of a question about it. Because hope is so subjective.
It is.
Anything can make you feel hope. Like suddenly you come home and your mom has made dosa and you're like, oh, I had a bad day, but suddenly I don't care because I have the dosa in front of me. And so there's this story of this guy who jumped off the Golden Gate Bridge and he survived, and he's actually come up and talked about his whole thing. And when he landed in the water, he saw a sea creature coming towards him, and he was like, oh my god, I survived the fall, now I'm going to get eaten by this sea creature. The sea creature comes and starts taking circles around him until the Coast Guard comes and saves him. So now he was like, oh my god, this sea lion, he found out later that it's a sea lion, stayed with me. It took care of me. It didn't speak my language. It was not human. I couldn't talk to it, but it was with me and it stayed with me till I got help. And that makes me feel hopeful, and it's a sign.
Wow.
Now, please, as if the sea lion knew what was happening. The sea lion is just a sea lion. It was going round and round in circles. For whatever reason, it was going round and round in circles, right? There's no way to say that the sea lion knew you were in pain and therefore. But it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It gave him hope.
Yeah.
How does it matter if it's logical or not? It makes no difference.
That is so true, yeah.
So sometimes we think logic will give us hope, but sometimes illogical things give us hope.
Yeah.
And so A, don't assume what is going to give someone else hope. And B, realize that it can come from anywhere, in any manner, and it'll help you get through to the next thing. And we're all very capable people. We have moments where we get very overwhelmed.
Yeah.
And in those moments, we struggle, and we need help and support from people to be able to remember that we are capable.
Yeah, sure. There's this book, Ira, which is called I've Never Been Unhappier. It has been written by Shaheen Bhatt, Alia Bhatt's sister, and there's an amazing excerpt in this book. It says, depression has taken a lot from me, and it has also given me a lot, but only because I eventually demanded it. I demanded my lessons, and I took them head on. You must not allow your pain to be wasted, Shaheen, my father said to me. This was Mahesh Bhatt Saab telling Shaheen the last few words. You must not allow your pain to be wasted. I want to ask the same question to you, Ira. What have you demanded from your pain?
That's interesting. Well, I definitely agree with her in the sense that I've learned a lot of things about myself, and now I have a lot of demands in terms of what my standard of quality of life is going to be.
Yeah.
I'm not wasting time on things that I don't want to. I'm making active decisions on where I want to spend my time and energy rather than just letting it happen. I want to be healthier.
Yeah.
And it makes me happier to be healthier, not boring and grumpy. And so in that sense, I think I demand more from myself, and I also demand more from the people around me. Demand more meaning I convey my requirements, and then and I think what Mr. Bhatt said about don't let it go to waste.
Yeah.
I think for me, that's what I'm doing with Agatsu. I'm like, please, whatever I learned, whatever I can, because I'm scared of depression in anyone else also. I'm scared of depression as a thing. So if you have depression or someone else has depression, I'm more afraid of it than you are, maybe.
Because you know what could happen
because it's just a horrible feeling, and there's no way to explain it.
Yeah.
And there's just no words. So I'm scared of it. So even if it's in someone else, I don't want it. So I want to do whatever I can do, however helpful I can be, while still taking care of myself. Because if I stop taking care of myself, then I won't be helpful.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's taught me lots of things.
Yeah. Do whatever it makes you feel happy to look after your mental health, because we are living in a very transitional time, to be very honest.
Yeah,
And
social media is just
it's a completely, and we are still learning. We are all trying to get along with it, and while social media is still something we are learning, there is AI and there's so much more that we all have to adapt to if we want to go ahead. There's no way we can leave it behind. Adaptability is the way forward, but while doing it, the mental health cannot go for a toss, which is why the conversation, which is why the podcast, I hope the conversation goes out, and I hope people get inspired by your journey. So thank you for opening up.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. You can also hear the entire conversation on Google Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, Podcast Index, RSS Community, and Listen Notes.